The silent messenger, the Nexus Prime station, hung like a jewel in the void, its crystalline structures catching the light of 3 distant suns. For over 1,000 years, this had been the heart of galactic civilization, where species from across the spiral arm gathered to trade, negotiate, and display their power. Today, something unprecedented was about to happen. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope, watching the massive station grow larger through the viewports. Her ship looked tiny compared to the behemoths already docked. Massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts stretched 4 kilometers, their hulls bristling with weapons. The insectoid Kethva had brought their hive ships, each one housing millions of warriors. Even the peaceful Alathian merchants traveled in convoys of 100 vessels. And then there was humanity. 1 ship, 1 crew of 200 souls representing an entire species making their debut on the galactic stage. "Captain," said Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez from the communication station, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "We're receiving docking clearance. Bay 847. Sarah nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the view ahead. "Take us in, steady as she goes." The Defiant Hope was beautiful in its simplicity. Unlike the ornate vessels of other species, it was built with clean lines and practical design. Its hull was a deep blue-black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No unnecessary decorations, no displays of wealth or power, just function and purpose. As they approached the docking bay, Sarah could see the other ship's crews, watching through observation decks. Some pointed and laughed. Others whispered among themselves. The humans had been isolated for 2 centuries, ever since first contact had gone badly. Now they were returning to a galaxy that had moved on without them. "Docking complete, Captain," announced Chief Engineer Maria Santos. "All systems stable." Sarah took a deep breath. "All right, people. Remember why we're here. Earth needs this trade agreement. Our colonies need resources. And the galaxy needs to know that humanity is ready to take its place among the stars." The airlock hissed open, and Sarah stepped into the station's grand corridor. The artificial gravity was lighter here, and the air carried the scent of ozone and exotic flowers. Beings of every shape and size moved through the vast space, creating a symphony of languages and cultures. At the center of the corridor stood Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. He was nearly 3 meters tall, with golden scales that caught the light and 4 arms that ended in clawed hands. His species had dominated this sector for millennia, and his presence here was both a greeting and a warning. "Captain Chen," Veltar's voice resonated through a translation device. "So humanity finally emerges from its little corner of space, and you bring ... 1 ship." His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Sarah approached with measured steps, her uniform crisp and her expression calm. "Ambassador, 1 ship is all we needed." The corridor had gone quiet. Other species representatives had gathered to witness this first meeting. The Kethva Queen's emissary buzzed its wings nervously. The Alathian trade minister's tentacles writhed with curiosity. Even the energy beings of the Lumari collective had manifested physical forms to observe. "1 ship," Veltar repeated, his voice carrying across the space. "How ... quaint." The Zephyrian Empire brought a fleet of 300 vessels. The have their entire 3rd hive. Even the merchants bring escorts. He leaned down toward Sarah, his golden eyes gleaming. "What makes you think 1 small ship can represent humanity's interests here?" Sarah met his gaze without flinching. "Because we don't need to impress anyone with numbers, Ambassador. We prefer to let our actions speak for themselves. A ripple of whispers ran through the crowd. The smaller species appreciated the human's courage, even if they doubted her wisdom. The major powers found her response amusing at best, insulting at worst. Actions, Veltar mused. Yes, we remember human actions. The Proxima incident, the Mars rebellion, your species' tendency toward ... violence. His forearms spread wide. Perhaps it's better that you bring only one ship. Less chance of unfortunate accidents. The tension in the air was palpable. Sarah could feel the weight of every gaze upon her. This was the moment that would define humanity's return to galactic society. She could back down, apologize, try to smooth things over, or she could stand firm. The Proxima incident was a misunderstanding, Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly through the corridor. But if you're suggesting that humanity is somehow lesser because we choose diplomacy over displays of force, then you're welcome to test that assumption. Veltar's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening the Zephyrian Empire, Captain? I'm stating a fact. Humanity has spent 2 centuries in isolation, yes, but we haven't been idle. We've been watching, learning, preparing. You see one ship because one ship is all we need. The crowd murmured. Some laughed outright. The Kethva emissaries' wings buzzed faster. The Alathian trade minister's tentacles coiled tighter. But Sarah wasn't finished. You want to know what humanity learned during our isolation? We learned that the galaxy operates on a simple principle. Might makes right. The strong take what they want. The weak surrender what they have. It's an elegant system, really. Clean, efficient. She turned to address the wider crowd, her voice carrying to every corner of the corridor. But it has one flaw. It assumes that strength can only be measured in the number of ships in your fleet or the size of your weapons. Humanity has discovered that true strength comes from understanding, innovation, and the refusal to accept limitations. Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of growing agitation. Pretty words, human. But words won't protect your colonies when the Empire decides to expand into your territory. The corridor fell silent. This was it. The moment everyone had been waiting for. The Zephyrian Empire had just announced their intention to claim human space, and they were doing it publicly, in front of the entire galaxy. Sarah turned back to Veltar, and for the first time, she smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Ambassador, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You seem to think that humanity's isolation was a sign of weakness, that we've been hiding because we're afraid. She stepped closer, close enough that the massive alien had to look down to meet her eyes. You're partially right. We have been afraid, but not of you. We've been afraid of what we might do if we came back too soon. We've been afraid of the galaxy's reaction when they learned what we've become. And what have you become? Veltar's voice was quieter now, uncertain. Sarah's smile widened. We've become everything you trained us to be. You wanted us to understand that might makes right. We understand perfectly. You wanted us to know that in this galaxy, the strong survive and the weak are consumed. Message received. She gestured toward the docking bay where the Defiant Hope waited. You see one ship because we only need one. Not because we're weak, but because we're efficient. Every human colony, every outpost, every research station has spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. We've been united by a single purpose, to ensure that when we returned to galactic society, we would never again be dismissed as primitives. The crowd was hanging on every word now. Even the energy beings had formed more solid manifestations to better observe the exchange. You want to expand into human space, Sarah continued. You're welcome to try, but understand this, that one ship represents the collective will of 47 human worlds. Every person, every resource, every innovation of the past 2 centuries has been focused on a single goal. We didn't come here to ask for permission to exist. We came here to inform you that we're done hiding. Veltar's 4 arms had dropped to his sides. The confidence in his posture had evaporated. You're bluffing. One ship against the might of the Empire, against the combined fleets of the galaxy. Impossible. Sarah's expression grew serious. Ambassador, has your intelligence service ever wondered why, in 2 centuries of isolation, not a single human ship has been captured? Why not? One human colony has fallen to pirates or raiders. Why, despite your best efforts, you've never been able to penetrate our space? The silence stretched. Veltar's golden eyes were wide with growing realization. It's because we've been practicing, Sarah said softly. Every attempted invasion, every probe, every lost ship that wandered into our territory became a lesson. We learned your tactics, your weaknesses, your limitations. And we adapted. She turned to address the crowd again. The galaxy taught us that survival requires strength, so we became strong. You taught us that respect must be earned through power, so we developed power beyond your comprehension. You showed us that in this universe, the prepared survive and the unprepared perish. Sarah paused, letting her words sink in. So we prepared. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came through Sarah's unit, calm and professional. Captain, we're detecting incoming ships, Zephyrian configuration. 300 vessels, approaching at standard cruising speed. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. She'd been expecting this. Time to intercept. 18 hours, Captain. Veltares. Mandibles clicked rapidly. The fleet was already in motion before this conversation began. We came here to deliver an ultimatum, not to negotiate. I know, Sarah replied. Your intentions were never in doubt. The question is, are you prepared for the consequences? The massive alien drew himself to his full height, trying to regain his composure. 300 ships against 1. The consequences are obvious. Sarah's smile returned, cold and confident. Are they? Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about human military doctrine? Enough. Primitive weapons, outdated tactics, emotional decision-making. Your species' inability to adapt to modern warfare is well documented. Documented from data that's 2 centuries old, Sarah pointed out. But you're right about one thing. We are emotional. We do make decisions based on feelings as much as logic. And right now, 47 human worlds are feeling very unified about one thing. We're done being underestimated. She turned toward the docking bay. The fleet will arrive in 18 hours. That gives us time to prepare. I suggest you use that time to consider whether the Zephyrian Empire is truly ready for what's coming. As she walked away, the crowd parted before her. The confidence in her stride, the certainty in her voice, had changed something fundamental in the corridor. The laughter had stopped. The whispers had taken on a different tone. Behind her, Veltar called out, Captain, this is madness. One ship cannot stand against the might of the Empire. Sarah paused at the airlock to her ship. When she turned back, her expression was calm, almost serene. Ambassador, you're about to discover that you've been asking the wrong question. The galaxy has been wondering why humanity sent only one ship. Tomorrow, you'll understand why one ship is all we need. The airlock sealed behind her, and the Defiant Hope began its preparations. In 18 hours, the galaxy would learn that humanity's long isolation had not been a retreat. It had been a transformation. And the species that emerged from the shadows would be nothing like the one that had retreated into them 2 centuries before. The message was clear. Even if the galaxy didn't understand it yet, humanity had returned, and they were ready to reclaim their place among the stars. The question wasn't whether they could survive what was coming. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what they had become. The reckoning. The Zephyrian fleet emerged from hyperspace like a golden storm. 300 vessels of various sizes and configurations, their hulls gleaming with polished armor and bristling with weapons. Dreadnoughts the size of cities led the formation, followed by cruisers, destroyers, and countless fighter squadrons. It was a display of power that had brought entire civilizations to their knees. And opposing them was one human ship. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope, watching the tactical display with calm attention. The dots representing enemy vessels filled the screen like stars in the night sky. Any rational person would have felt fear, despair, or at least concern. Sarah felt only a quiet satisfaction. Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station, the Zephyrian fleet is taking standard battle formation. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. Let them broadcast, Sarah replied. Chief Santos, how are our systems? All systems optimal, Captain. The crew is ready. Sarah nodded. Her crew of 200 was calm and focused. They'd trained for this moment their entire lives. Every simulation, every drill, every exercise had prepared them for exactly this scenario. They weren't afraid because they knew something the galaxy didn't understand yet. Captain, Communications Officer Lisa Park announced, "We're receiving a transmission from the Nexus Prime station. Ambassador Veltar is requesting permission to negotiate." Sarah's expression didn't change. Patch him through. The main screen flickered, and Veltar's golden features appeared. Behind him, Sarah could see the crowded corridors of the station. Every species representative was watching, waiting to see how this confrontation would end. Captain Chen, Veltar's voice carried a note of desperation. This madness must stop. 300 ships against one. This isn't warfare, it's suicide. Surrender now, and the Empire will show mercy. Sarah studied the alien's face. The confidence from yesterday was gone, replaced by something she hadn't expected to see. Genuine concern. Not for the Empire, but for her and her crew. "Ambassador," she said quietly, "I appreciate your concern. But humanity didn't come this far to surrender at the first sign of opposition." The first sign. Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Captain, you're facing the entire Third Fleet of the Zephyrian Empire. This isn't opposition, it's annihilation, is it?" Sarah's voice remained calm. "Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know about Earth's history?" Veltar's expression showed confusion. "Your planet's history. What relevance does that have to this situation?" "Everything," Sarah replied. "You see, humans have a saying, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. The galaxy made the mistake of underestimating humanity once before. We learned from that experience. The question is, have you?" On the tactical display, the Zephyrian fleet was moving into attack position. The flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Golden Fist, was positioning itself at the center of the formation. Its captain, Admiral Ketzer, was known throughout the galaxy for his tactical brilliance and ruthless efficiency. Captain, Tactical Officer James Wright reported, "The enemy fleet is charging weapons. They'll be in firing range in 90 seconds. Sarah nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Wright. Communications, open a channel to the Zephyrian flagship." The screen split, showing both Ambassador Veltar and a new figure. Admiral Kethser was even more imposing than Veltar, with battle scars across his golden scales and eyes that held the cold calculation of a born warrior. Human Captain Kethser's voice was like grinding stone. "I am Admiral Kethser of the Imperial Third Fleet. You have 60 seconds to surrender your vessel and submit to Imperial authority. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your ship and the elimination of your crew." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Admiral, I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Defiant Hope. Before we begin, I want to make sure you understand. What you're about to do, I understand perfectly. I'm about to crush a single primitive vessel that dared to challenge the might of the Empire. Are you?" Sarah's voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. "Tell me, Admiral, in all your years of service, have you ever faced a human ship in combat?" Kethser's eyes narrowed. "Of course not. Your species has been hiding in isolation for 2 centuries. Exactly, so you're basing your tactics on data that's 200 years old. Data from a humanity that was just beginning to understand its place in the galaxy." Sarah's smile was cold. "But we're not those humans anymore." 30 seconds to firing range, Wright announced. Sarah turned to her crew. "All right, people. It's time to show the galaxy what we've learned. Chief Santos, bring us to full operational status." "Aye, Captain. All systems optimal. The ship is ready." Sarah looked back at the split screen. Veltar was watching with obvious anxiety, while Kethser wore an expression of grim satisfaction. "Admiral," Sarah said quietly, "last chance. Turn your fleet around and leave human space. Continue with your current course, and you'll discover why the galaxy should have left us alone." Ketzer's laugh was like breaking glass. Empty threats from a doomed ship. All vessels, open fire. The Zephyrian fleet unleashed a barrage that would have reduced a moon to rubble. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic projectiles filled the void between the two forces. The combined firepower of 300 ships focused on a single target, and the Defiant Hope simply wasn't there anymore. "What?" Kethser's voice cracked across the communication channel. "Where did they go?" On the tactical display, the human ship had vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. The Zephyrian weapons had struck empty space. "Admiral," one of his officers reported, "sensors show no debris, no energy signature. They've completely disappeared." Sarah's voice came from all around them, transmitted on every frequency simultaneously. "Lesson 1, Admiral, never assume. You understand your enemy's capabilities. The Defiant Hope reappeared, but not where it had been. It materialized directly in the center of the Zephyrian formation, surrounded by enemy vessels. Impossible, according to every known law of physics and military doctrine." "Impossible," Kethser whispered. "No ship can teleport." "You're right," Sarah's voice replied. "No ship can teleport. But a ship equipped with dimensional phase technology can temporarily exist in parallel space. We call it shadow jumping. It's one of the innovations we developed during our isolation. The human ship fired once, a single pulse of energy that split into dozens of smaller beams, each one precisely targeted. In the space of 3 seconds, 50 Zephyrian vessels were disabled, their engines dead, their weapons offline. Not destroyed, but helpless. Lesson 2, Sarah continued. Precision is more valuable than raw power. We don't need to obliterate your fleet. We just need to stop it. Quetzal's voice was tight with shock. All vessels, retreat to defensive positions. Engage evasive maneuvers. But the Defiant Hope was already moving. It flowed through the Zephyrian formation like water, its shadow jump technology allowing it to phase in and out of normal space at will. Each time it appeared, more enemy ships found themselves disabled. This is impossible. Veltar breathed from the station. One ship cannot defeat an entire fleet, can't it? Sarah's voice was calm, almost conversational. Ambassador, you made a fundamental error in your calculations. You assumed that bigger is better, that more ships meant more power. But warfare isn't about quantity. It's about adaptation, innovation, and the will to survive. The human ship paused its assault, hanging motionless in the center of the chaos. Around it, disabled Zephyrian vessels drifted helplessly. Admiral Kuchizar, Sarah called out. You now have 237 ships left. Still confident in your victory? Quetzal's response was to order his remaining vessels to form a tighter defensive circle. All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel. Don't let it escape. The second barrage was even more intense than the first. The remaining Zephyrian ships poured everything they had into the space where the Defiant Hope hung suspended. Energy cascaded through the void like a man-made star. When the light faded, the human ship was still there, surrounded by a shimmering barrier of energy. Lesson 3, Sarah said. Defense is just as important as offense. This is a quantum barrier. Shield. It doesn't just deflect energy, it converts it into power for our systems. Thank you for recharging our weapons. The Defiant Hope's next attack was different. Instead of the precise, surgical strikes from before, it released a wave of energy that washed over the entire Zephyrian fleet. When it passed, every enemy ship found its targeting systems offline, its communications jammed, its sensors blind. You're fighting blind now, Sarah observed. No coordination, no tactical advantage. Just individual ships firing at shadows. Admiral Quetzal was breathing heavily, his golden scales dulled with stress. What do you want, human? Name your terms. I want you to understand something, Admiral. This isn't about territory or resources or political power. This is about respect. For 2 centuries, the galaxy has dismissed humanity as primitive, aggressive, and unworthy of consideration. Today, that changes. The Defiant Hope moved again, this time approaching the flagship directly. As it drew closer, the massive dreadnought's weapons swiveled to track it, but they wouldn't fire. The targeting systems were still offline. You want to know why humanity sent only 1 ship? Sarah continued. Because we didn't need more. Every human colony, every outpost, every research station contributed to this moment. We pooled our resources, our knowledge, our determination into a single project. 1 ship representing the unified will of an entire species. The human vessel positioned itself directly in front of the Golden Fist's bridge. Through the viewports, Admiral Quetzal could see the sleek, dark hull of the ship that had defeated his entire fleet. The Defiant Hope isn't just a ship, Sarah explained. It's a statement, a declaration that humanity has learned from its mistakes, adapted to the galaxy's rules, and emerged stronger than before. We don't need fleets of thousands. We don't need overwhelming numbers. We have something more valuable, the ability to evolve. On the station, the crowd of alien representatives watched in stunned silence. The impossible had happened. A single human ship had defeated the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Ambassador Veltar found his voice first. "Captain Chen, what happens now?" Sarah's image appeared on screens throughout the station and the fleet. Her expression was serious but not cruel. "Now, the galaxy learns a new lesson. Humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist. We're not seeking approval or validation. We're simply informing you that we're here, we're staying, and we're ready to defend ourselves." She turned her attention to Admiral Quetzar. "Admiral, you have a choice. You can acknowledge that humanity has earned its place in galactic society, or you can continue this conflict and discover what other innovations we've developed during our isolation." Quetzar's voice was barely above a whisper. What else have you built?" Sarah's smile was enigmatic. "Admiral, the Defiant Hope is our diplomatic vessel. It's designed for exploration, trade negotiations, and peaceful contact with other species. Would you like to see what our military vessels can do?" The silence stretched across space. Finally, Admiral Quetzar spoke into his communicator. "All vessels, stand down. Cease hostilities." "A wise decision," Sarah replied. "Your disabled ships will have their systems restored within the hour. Your crews are unharmed. Consider this a demonstration of human intentions. We could have destroyed your fleet, but we chose not to. We hope you'll remember that." The tactical display showed the Defiant Hope moving away from the Zephyrian formation. As it did, the disabled enemy vessels began to show signs of life. Systems came back online, weapons powered up, engines restarted. Captain Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, "We're receiving communications from 17 different species. They're all requesting formal diplomatic contact." Sarah nodded. "Forward their messages to Earth Command. They'll want to handle the diplomatic aspects of this situation." On the station, Ambassador Veltar was staring at the tactical display in wonder. "Captain Chen, I owe you an apology. The Empire greatly underestimated humanity." "Yes, you did," Sarah replied, "but that's understandable. We've been gone for 2 centuries. The galaxy moved on, developed its own assumptions about what we were and what we could become. Today, we've corrected those assumptions." She paused, looking out at the stars beyond the station. "The question now is, what kind of relationship does the galaxy want with humanity? We're prepared for cooperation, trade, and mutual respect. But we're also prepared for conflict, if that's what you choose." The message was clear. Humanity had returned to galactic society not as seeking acceptance, but as equals demanding respect. The single ship that had seemed so inadequate yesterday was now recognized for what it truly was, a symbol of human innovation, determination, and unity. As the Defiant Hope took up position near the station, its dark hull reflecting the light of distant stars, the galaxy began to understand that the question was never why humanity had sent only one ship. The question was why they had needed to send any ships at all. The answer was simple. They hadn't come to ask permission. They had come to announce that humanity was ready to reclaim its place among the stars. And if the galaxy wasn't ready for that, then the galaxy would have to adapt, because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. In a universe where might makes right, the strongest weapon isn't the biggest gun or the largest fleet. It's the refusal to accept defeat, the ability to adapt and overcome, and the unity of purpose that can turn a single ship into an unstoppable force. The galaxy had wondered why humanity sent only one ship. Now they knew, because one ship was all they needed.